My name is Sha-Real. I'm doing my Charlton story review. MIS 101. Okay. Earl P. Charlton was born in 1863 in Chester, Connecticut. He had two siblings, and he lived with both his parents. His father was a blacksmith, and they don't really tell us what his mother did, but they said she was a pioneer, a descendant of pioneers. Since blacksmithing was a hard job, this is said to be where Charlton got his habit of hard work. As a kid, he juggled 4 jobs. He was an errand boy, a paper boy, a cattle drover, and a part-time clerk. And his father also gave him a certain mindset to think more practically than theoretically, and this helps when dealing with his customers. Like I said, he was a great multitasker, and at one point in his life, he was the director of the First National Bank of Boston, the National Exchange Bank of Providence, the Durfee Trust of Fall River, and the director of which is now Post Cereal, which makes Honey Smacks and other cereals. He was also a dedicated Republican. He was friends with Calvin Coolidge. Their families were very close. Their wives were very close. He would even take trips down frequently to D.C., to spend time with each other. They were close friends until Charlton's death. At one point, President Wilson named him the head to the War Industries Board. Then in November 2nd, 1918, he was the director of the Administrative Division of the War Department. And this carried through his whole life. He was also a Mason to the 32nd degree. On top of all of this, he was still a philanthropic type of person. Calvin Coolidge gave Charlton an assignment to lead a fund to give to the Clark School for Deaf in Northampton, Mass., where Coolidge's wife worked at one point, and that was very successful. He set up a trust for Tufts University and many other causes. He also gave $500,000 to the Fall River Hospital. This was the biggest contribution to any New England institution at that point, and it's now named after him. He also gave to UMass Dartmouth. That is why the Charlton College of Business has the name that it has now. Throughout the span of his lifetime, he is said to have given what in today's money would be about $1 billion to charities and benefits of all kinds. Another key to Charlton's success was that he believed in his employees. He had a lot of trust for his employees and put a lot on the line for them. One story was when there was a rumor that got back to Charlton that one of his store managers in Butte, Montana, Mr. Williams, there was a rumor that he was stealing from the register. He was not really telling the full story about how well the store was doing, how he was doing, and there was a lawsuit for him, and $15,000, and he wasn't so quick to jump to conclusions as to accuse him of anything, but instead he sent Simon Capstein, which is his kind of advisor or someone he would send when there's problems to the stores, because he can't go to every store location that he has. So when he sent him, he found out that Mr. Williams was innocent, and really there was another company called the M. Seller and Company in Butte, Montana, and this was the competition. And really, what was really going on was they were taking legal steps to scare Mr. Williams. So what he would do was he would try and pay them off $50 a month, and in order to keep his business going. So had he just went off of straight action, he would have fired Mr. Williams for no reason. But instead, he stuck by him, and he didn't lose a great employee. Another key to Charlton's success was that he realized that customers came first. This is why he was able to understand the dynamics of business. He knew that the customer was always superior. He knew that you had to appeal to the customer first, and that quality was key. He also knew that the economy is forever changing and will always be like that. When he saw that consumers wanted more quality, he adjusted. When he first started out, he was making 5 and 10 cent stores, and what mattered more to customers was the price. But when he found out that they really wanted more value, he really focused on quality, and he was able to survive. Read a couple quotes. He said, "The moment the public fails to buy from fast enough and steadily enough, our whole structure crumbles." And that makes complete sense. And he also says, "It is the idea that the more the student can do for the consumer, the more efficiently he can study and supply the needs of the consumer, and the greater will be his own success." This is really why I believe, he just was born, and he just had a knack for business. He was just really good at it and could understand all parts of business, from the consumer to the CEO. And this is why he was able to survive as well as he did. Backtracking a little bit, his rise to wealth or fame didn't take very long. In 1880, he moved to Boston, and he never came back to Connecticut. In Boston, he was an ace drummer. He was a travel salesman. And as a travel salesman, he met Knox. Knox was Woolworth's cousin, and at that time, Woolworth had the biggest company of 5 and 10 cent stores in the country. At that time, the dilemma was that customers couldn't physically touch the product, and they could be embarrassed when they would ask for the price and it was too expensive. So Charlton thought, well, let me put the items and the products on the floor where the customers could really interact and see if they like it and if they could afford it, and see how that works. And it did. Their first store, Charlton and Knox, opened in 1890 in Fall River. Knox was just an older guy who, had experience, but seeing Charlton's vision and let him lead it. So he was really there for financial assistance, and was like the fuel for that. But like I said, their business was really successful. They sold out opening day. No one knows why they broke up in 1896, but they were friends after that. Woolworth seen the success that Charlton had and a couple other people, and there were 5 members: F.W. Kirby, E.P. Charlton, F.W. Woolworth himself, his brother C.S. Woolworth, and S.H. Knox. These were the original 5 founders of the F.W. Woolworth Company in 1911. Woolworth had convinced them all to join as one under his name. That was because he had the most stores, and he had the most profit. He was making more money than all of them, so it was really easy to get them to jump on board. And these guys, they really just were successful. To get a sense, in 1913, in New York City, the Woolworth building was the tallest building in the world. So that right there gives you a sense of the type of money that these guys were really making off of 5 and 10 cent stores. And Charlton was, a big part of this Woolworth company. He was a good asset. He had already went international first with his own company, the Charlton Company, before he had even went to the West Coast. And when he went to international, he went to Canada. And I mean, that just goes to show the type of guy he was and the businessman that he was and where he was thinking at the time in his head. The Woolworth Company would be very successful all the way until 1970, until they completely just ran out of business. But Earl P. Charlton died on November 20th, 1930, at age 67. He was very ill that summer, and his unfortunate passing had occurred. But his legacy still lives on. His family still continues philanthropy, and is a big part of Southern Massachusetts and his university. But I mean, his legacy still continues in just about every store in the world, where you can now, pick up a product without having to ask the permission of the clerk or the store manager. No one can be embarrassed anymore if they can't afford something. That freedom, we have to thank Earl P. Charlton for. But this is Sha-Real Marshall, and this is my video. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.